Welcome! We're going to tackle a really tough question today. What happens when a field that's supposed to be all about healing is actually built on a foundation that includes some incredibly harmful ideas? We're going to dive into a fascinating paper by Christopher Jerome Carter that looks at analytical psychology's hidden and very troubling history with scientific racism.
So, let's just start with the central paradox right away. Let's be clear. Science has totally debunked the idea of race as a biological fact. It's not real. And yet, as a social idea, it has this incredible power. It creates these fictitious boundaries that cause very real, very measurable harm. So how can a lie, a scientific fiction, cause so much real-world damage? And for our purposes, what part did psychology itself play in creating and spreading that lie? Okay, so the paper's core argument is this. The very concept of race is, from its inception, racist. Carter shows that this toxic idea didn't just survive on its own. No, it was propped up by historical attitudes from within psychology, including, and this is a big one, from a giant of the field like Carl Jung. And, facing this history isn't just some dusty academic exercise. It's absolutely essential if we want to fix the real-world damage these ideas are still causing in our healthcare systems right now. To really get a handle on Jung's work and his thinking, we first have to understand the world he was swimming in. We're talking about an era when Western science was, frankly, obsessed with manufacturing proof for racial hierarchies that it already took for granted. You can actually trace this whole disturbing intellectual line starting way back in the 18th century. It kicks off with people like Carl von Linné, who started assigning psychological traits based on skin color. By the time we get to the late 19th century, this way of thinking just explodes into Francis Galton's eugenics and a formal race theory, all of it designed to create what looked like a scientific permission slip for white supremacy. And just listen to the language they were using. It was shockingly blunt. Phrases like improving human stock and promoting more suitable races. This shows you it was never just some subtle academic theory, right? This was a blueprint for social engineering. It was the intellectual framework for truly horrific policies, everything from forced sterilization all the way to ethnic cleansing. Okay, so let's move to the central figure in Carter's analysis, Carl Jung himself. He is just this profound and challenging contradiction. He's a figure whose life and work really force us to wrestle with these huge questions of genius, historical context, and ultimately moral responsibility. I mean, you just can't get around a quote like this. It's deeply troubling, and it's from his time as editor of a German psychotherapy journal. Published in 1934, it shows him using the exact language and logic of the Nazi-era thinking. Statements like this, they just reveal a clear alignment with the very scientific racism we were just talking about. But then, fast forward just over a decade, and you get this stunning 180. In an essay he wrote in 1945, right after the catastrophe of the war, Jung does a complete reversal. He calls race theory a pseudoscience and talks about a collective guilt, even connecting his own earlier views to his own deep-seated feelings of inferiority. It's a shocking turnaround. So while Jung the man had this massive transformation, Carter argues the real problem is institutional. See, those earlier, really harmful writings, they're still in his official collected works, sitting there without any kind of disclaimer or context. And that allows the poison of those old ideas to just linger in the foundations of a profession that's supposed to be all about healing. And this brings us right to the absolute core of Carter's argument. Why does this intellectual history from nearly a century ago still demand our urgent attention today? Well, because these abstract theories have a direct, devastating, and unbroken lineage to the realities people are living and dying with right now. And the answer to that question is an emphatic, undeniable yes. Carter's research draws a straight line from these historical biases to catastrophic consequences in modern healthcare. And the data, it's just devastating to look at. In the United States, Black women are 2.6 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than white women. Native American and Alaska Native mothers face double the risk. These aren't just numbers on a chart. They are the tragic, real-world outcomes of systemic bias. But here it is. Here is the single most damning piece of evidence. If you look only at women who have a college degree, the mortality ratio for Black mothers is 5 times higher than for their white peers. Let that sink in. This proves with chilling clarity that this isn't about income, it's not about education, so what is it about? It's rooted in the biases of the healthcare system itself. And this legacy isn't just about passive bias, things people might not even realize are doing.
It's about active, intentional harm. Carter brings up the horrifying case of the Relf sisters, two young girls who were sterilized without consent in a federally funded clinic as recently as 1973. This is a direct consequence of eugenicist thinking. It's a stark, chilling echo of the very theories Jung once appeared to endorse.
So, in the face of this deeply embedded and incredibly damaging legacy, what's the path forward? Carter's paper isn't just about pointing out the problem, it's a clear call to action.
Carter uses a really powerful metaphor here. He calls these unaddressed racist writings a cancer on the profession. And his point is, you can't heal a body by just ignoring a malignancy. Without a formal public acknowledgement of the harm these ideas have caused, the very core of analytical psychology remains compromised.
So what's the solution? Carter proposes a concrete 3-step action plan for the international organizations that are the guardians of Jung's work. First, they need to denounce the racist parts of his work. Second, they need to formally express regret for the impact. And third, and this is the big one, they need to add a printed acknowledgement of this harm to every single volume of Jung's works that gets published. This wouldn't erase history, but it would finally put these foundational texts in their proper context and align them with modern ethics.
And this is the essential question that the paper leaves us with. It's a profound challenge to the field of analytical psychology, and honestly, to any discipline that has a complicated past. It's a call for the institutional courage to look in the mirror, to cleanse its own wounds, so that it can more authentically and effectively continue its important work of healing others.